Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello.
Hey, Guthrie.
You had something you wanted to start with today.
I want to start with telling people about our upcoming workshops because I always forget to do that till the very end, and I happen to remember it. I'm so excited. I remembered it.
Yeah.
All right. So we are teaching a behavioral design workshop in person. Well, you are teaching it. Behavioral design workshop in person in Columbus, Ohio. And the date of that is.
Oh my God, you were going to just ask me the dates.
I believe, yeah.
The dates are... what do we got going on? I got to make sure I've done this right.
Yeah.
That would be May 16th.
May 16th.
And June.
And then there's one on UX leadership on June. These are one-day workshops in
June
Columbus.
4th.
June 4th in Columbus, Ohio, one-day workshops. And if people are interested in those, how would they find out about them?
You can look for them on Eventbrite.
Eventbrite. Just go to Eventbrite and search for them. UX leadership, June 4th. Behavioral design, May. What'd you say?
Whatever I said. Whatever. You can rewind the podcast and go.
Okay. And then there's also an online behavioral design workshop that Smashing Magazine is putting out. And so if you go to Smashing Workshops, you can find that there. All right. So I kind of did an okay job, but not really. I wasn't prepared. I thought of it at the last minute.
Yeah, it's okay. We're never prepared.
Sometimes we're prepared. All right. What are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about design systems today, but I just wanted to give a quick update about something that I was trying out. People maybe are fascinated by it. So a couple podcasts ago, I talked about how what AI needs is it needs to be run smaller models, but locally.
Okay.
On much less strenuous for hardware stuff. Now, for those of you who may not know, you can think of an AI model a little bit like compression. So you need a tremendous amount of hardware to create the model. And so there are certain companies like Facebook with their Llama open source AI model, for example, that take, hundreds of millions of dollars of computer hardware and put it to work to create a model.
Okay.
The models have different sizes, and it's like sort of they have it in sort of numbers. Okay, so
it's not small, medium, and large.
Well, it kind of is, but like, what is small? It's sort of irrelevant. So basically, the larger the model, the more memory it takes to run.
Well, that makes sense.
Makes sense. But running it locally, if you're running it locally, it means, or even in the cloud, but it just means it's more intense to load the thing and then to actually do it. But the bigger models will, in theory, perform better.
Sure.
Because
there's more stuff.
They're less compressed.
Yeah.
So, for example, there are I believe it's a 7 billion parameter model, which is sort of the standard small size.
A lot of parameters.
That requires, I think, 4 gigabytes of RAM to run. So fairly,
that's
lax.
pretty compact.
You could run it on a cell phone, perhaps. A strong cell phone would work on a laptop.
Yeah.
Then there's usually 14 billion parameter models.
Yeah.
And 30 billion parameter models.
Oh.
And, if you ran like a 70 billion parameter model, you'd need like maybe 64 gigs of RAM or more.
Yeah.
So you're sort of pushing the limits of what a regular desktop computer can do.
Yeah.
They're also trying to make quick little models that are like a 1 billion parameter model, something very small.
Yeah.
So the point is that you can sort of pick the power of your model.
Okay.
And you can pick which model you want to run.
Yeah.
So there is some software. It's not out for Windows yet, but out for Linux, but also Mac. So if you have a Macintosh, you actually can play around with this, and it's not too terrible.
So you can play around with AI, and not connected to the internet.
Not connected, running locally.
Running locally on your machine.
Running locally. So it's called Ollama.
Okay.
Ollama.
Okay.
And it's using, for the most part, it's using the Facebook's, Meta's Llama open source.
Okay.
Llama 2 model.
And you tried this out on your...
I did. You download the program. You do have to run it in the terminal, but it's pretty simple. You just, you type in like Ollama, run llama. Like it's not like these are not complex coding things.
Right.
So you do have to run in terminal, but then when you do, you pick which model you want. So for example, there are, there's Llama 2, which is the most popular one. There's also Minstrel, which is another variation. There's Code Llama, which is sort of llama, but has been engineered to really focus on writing code.
It's all a lot more complicated than I would.
Anyways, if you want to just stick to Llama 2, it's just a good general all-purpose. I would say Llama 2 is very, it's a very ChatGPT-esque.
Okay,
very similar.
Right.
So all you say is you run Llama 2, and Ollama run, and you pick your model that you have installed, Llama, and then it a little pops up and says, "Hi, it's nice to meet you. Is there something I can help you with, or would you like to chat?" And it's just
now this
is
a
chatbot.
Just using information on your computer.
It's not even using information on my computer. Well, it's running on my computer.
Where's it using information?
Well, that's the cool thing about it. There is no information. There's a 4 gigabyte file that you download, and that is, I believe, the 7 billion parameter file.
So it comes with stuff.
But it's not. That's the thing about AI generation, is that it comes with stuff, but it's not like it's referring to files or data.
I don't understand how it comes up with answers. Do you? It's
much more.
It's just magic. We should just say it's. Just magic.
Much more like a biological process. Like how does a thing make a protein? Right? Like there's junk in there. But like if you eat. Anyways, so it's very strange. It's sort of, my understanding is that it knows what the next word in the sentence is supposed to be.
It's predicting.
It's not looking up data. It's not surfing the internet.
Okay. Just weird. No, I don't.
But it knows with high amounts of certainty the next word in a sentence. So does that... So in fairness, it's a little bit like humans, right? Like if I say, like, what's the capital of Zimbabwe? You maybe don't know.
I don't know.
But okay, so maybe that's... But if I say, what's the capital of the Netherlands? You could probably give me an answer, right? So like in your head, you're like, yes, that's what the next word is supposed to be. And it's a little bit like that, but it's not always certain about
and it's not always
supposed to
right.
Be. Yes. You shared
with me earlier one of your conversations with the local...
So I'm writing. So I asked this: who is Susan Weinschenk? Now, I should know. Okay, this is running locally on my machine. It's not connected to the internet. Okay. It cannot search the files on my computer.
Oh, it can't search the files.
No, it's running just. Contained in its own little box.
Who is Susan Weinschenk?
Okay, there's no cloud.
I don't know. There's no. I could give you an answer at all.
Reference. It's just what it was trained on.
Okay.
And here's what it says.
Okay.
Susan Weinschenk
Yeah.
is a prominent figure.
I'm prominent.
Prominent figure.
Well, so far, it's very smart.
In the field of user experience, UX,
Okay.
and human-computer interaction, HCI.
Okay.
She's a researcher,
Wow.
author, and
Yeah.
consultant
Yeah.
who has been working in the field for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Here are some key facts about Susan Weinschenk.
Okay. I'm scared.
1. Background. Susan Weinschenk holds a PhD in psychology
Yeah.
from the University of Michigan.
No.
That one's false. The wrong university.
of Michigan.
Close, though.
It's not anywhere close.
No, it's a Big Ten school in the Midwest. That's pretty close, right?
It's
Like
just
it didn't say it was like
picking out
UCLA.
Names of Big Ten schools.
Exactly. And
But
no,
it
it's
wasn't
like,
in the Midwest.
oh wait, where was your PhD from?
Ask your AI tool.
No. Well, no,
Penn State.
that's part of the Big Ten in the Midwest.
Pennsylvania is not in the Midwest. All right, keep going.
It's okay. It's in the Big Ten. It's in the Big Ten.
Okay, fine.
And has worked as a researcher
Kinda.
at IBM.
What?
As
At
a principal.
IBM? I never worked at IBM. Oh
but you
my
worked. But here's the thing, though. You did work for HFI, which is another 3-letter company
With an I in it.
with an
That
I in it.
makes-
So I do wonder if it's like it's trying to find HFI, but that makes no sense. So it's like IBM makes more sense in that capacity. So it's like it's kind of close, right? Like it's making stuff up, but it's also making stuff up that's like
Not
adjacent.
Not helpful. Yeah.
but no, but
okay.
very close, right? It's not to say
Uh-huh.
that's from the University of
Yeah,
like
because we don't
Bemidji,
care
I mean,
about
whatever.
truth. Okay, go ahead. What
Okay.
else does it
Again,
say?
it doesn't care about you. It doesn't. It's not how it works. Okay.
Now I'm getting really scared. You're
Okay.
laughing. Yeah.
Sorry. Where was I? Researcher at IBM.
IBM. Yeah.
And as a principal at the user experience consultancy User Centric. Sounds good.
What?
Also, that's not true.
That's not
Expertise. Susan Weinschenk is an expert in UX design, HCI, and human behavior. Okay. She is known for her work on the psychology of interaction design, including the development of the 7 Ps model of persuasive design, which outlines the key factors that influence user behavior online. The 7 Ps. Now, what's again really fascinating, 7P, you did invent a model called I5. Right? It's a number and a letter that you did come up
God,
with.
this
So
is
instead of 7P,
painful.
it was I5, but it's kind of really close. Publications. Susan Weinschenk has authored several books on UX design and HCI, including Neurodesign, the impact of brain science on design.
Close.
Close. How to get people to do stuff.
True.
Ways to make your message, product, or service attractive and
No.
influential.
No, that's not the subtitle. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's all the ones I got on this book.
Okay.
Consulting. He's worked with numerous clients,
Yes.
including IBM,
Actually, that's true.
Microsoft.
Not true.
You worked with Microsoft?
No.
I swear you worked with Microsoft.
No.
Like 12 years ago, you didn't do a Microsoft product?
Nope.
Fine. Maybe I'm thinking of the Amazon project.
Yeah.
They're sort of also out there. And Google,
No.
on UX design and HCI projects. She's also a frequent speaker at industry conference and events. You teach courses on UX design and HCI at the University of Michigan and other institutions. But you teach at the University of Wisconsin, which is super close. Research. Conducts research in the field of UX design and HCI, including studies on the impact of visual cues and user behavior and the role of emotions in design decision making. awards. You received
I've won
several
awards?
awards for her contributions in the field
Oh, I'm
of UX
excited.
design and HCI,
I didn't know I won
including
awards.
oh wow, the Interaction Design Association's IXDA Lifetime Achievement Award.
It's amazing. I didn't know that. I don't think they know that
The
either.
last section, you're a member of several professional organizations, including the Association for Computer Machinery, ACM, and
ACM.
Human Computer Interaction, HCI Group, and the Interaction Design Association, IXDA.
No, I'm not members of any of those things, by the way.
Overall, Susan Wenching is a highly respected figure in the field of UX design and HCI, known for her expertise, research, and contributions to the industry. So, now, okay, so definitely wrong, but also, how do they know all this stuff about you, right? That's the amazing part to me. Again, this is running locally. Now, if I type in who is Guthrie Weinschenk, here's what it says about me. Okay.
Yeah. This is what people do. You know, they type in their own name into all these AI.
Okay, so what's weird?
Yes.
So what's interesting is I've done this before, and it says like it doesn't know who I am. Now I typed it as like huge Guthrie Weinschenk, and it says it's a well-known figure in the year with 30 years. It's just giving me the exact same thing that it gave
says
you.
It was me.
Yeah. So it's definitely confused.
Oh,
so
okay.
These local models definitely, yeah, you fail. Yeah. Give me one other question. We'll see if we can get something right. What?
One other question?
Oh, now it's just who is Jesse Groves? It like asked itself a question. Jesse Groves is a well-known figure in the field of user experience, UX, and design. And it's like it's just giving the same things over and over and over
Okay,
with
it's
different
broken.
things.
Let's move on.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on. So clearly we need Llama 3, and these things need to work better on smaller processes. So it's who is Margot Handel? It just keeps going. Software's dumb.
I like that.
Why is it asking itself its own questions?
It's asking its own questions.
Now Margot is from Northwestern University.
Of course.
But also worked for IBM. Okay. So she's just there now. They're just coming up with like a random people in the industry
that probably don't exist.
Jim Bodie.
Jim, if you're listening.
Oh my God. Okay. I'll let you guys know if it ever stops. Okay. All right. Let's
my God. Well, that was
so
very
here, I am not here to be like, oh, look how dumb AI is. It'll never get there. I'm just here to give an update on playing with local AI on machines.
Says, look how dumb AI is.
Yeah. I mean, look, Llama 3 honestly came out, or Llama 2 came out maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg says Llama 3 is currently being trained right now. Yeah. So that'll probably come out, and that will probably be much better, especially on smaller devices.
Whatever. So. That's what I'm going to say. Whatever.
I would say, here's what I'll say. I'm going to say we're probably a year away from being able to have devices that can run locally that are not terrible.
Okay.
And that's a big step.
All right. In January 2025, we're gonna check that prediction out.
I may have to stop this. It's is very
stop it. Turn it off. It's distracting you.
It's very
All right. We said we were going to talk about design systems. So before our time is up,
I'm sorry.
Let's talk about design systems. No, that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I still don't understand how it knows who you are.
What I would like to know is where's my retirement from IBM? Do I have a 401k?
You get vested.
IBM, I used to work for you. I want my money. Okay. Design systems.
I went to an event this week which was a local UX XDA chapter meetup in Columbus, and there was a talk about design systems. It just got me thinking about design systems, and I thought it would be
Yeah.
a good topic to talk
Yeah.
about.
I
And
don't think we've
I'm
talked
not
about
going to
it.
go through like the whole talk. I don't think it's necessarily. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But I will say that the sort of one of the takeaways of the talk was that the state of design systems in 2023 is
Yeah.
pretty bad. It seems like most companies are having trouble with design systems. They're having people whose job it is on design system teams are having difficulty demonstrating their value.
Interesting.
People, there seems to be a lot of problems that's common in any kind of database repository, right?
Yeah.
Where people aren't using it. They're not People aren't putting things in the design system in the format that it's supposed to go in. People aren't using the design system in the way that they're supposed to use it. There's a lot of her sort of point was that, like, if you're going to make a design system, it's a product and you have users, and your design system has to work for your users. So just saying like the people are dumb, they don't know, they're not using it right, that's
Yeah.
not their problem. That's the problem with the design system. So in summary, the takeaway sort of was like, lots of potential. Some companies are all in on design systems, and they have huge design system teams, and they're doing all kinds of stuff with it. And there's some interesting software that we can talk about, that maybe will be the future of the design systems. But at the moment, there seems to be a lot of difficulty stemming from the fact that you have multiple teams, all in different silos, who all do stuff
Okay.
differently, but are all now supposed to
So
work collaboratively in the same language.
I did a lot of consulting on design systems in the last millennium. I just like to throw those things out.
What is a design system?
So I'm saying that design systems really have been around for a pretty long time. I mean, 24 years or more. And the problems with getting them up and going and getting them used and so on, all these problems have been with us from the beginning. They are all solvable, not necessarily easily, but all the problems can be solved. So you can implement a design system and it can be a good experience and work and be useful, and you can implement it and it can be a bad experience and not be useful. So what is a design system? That's a great question. Why don't you ask your AI bot there on your? No, I'm kidding. He's turning to it.
You don't want to know what it.
Actually, I do. What would it say?
Okay.
If you asked, and then I can tell you whether I agree with what it says or not.
Okay, hold on a second.
Dun, dun, dun. So the should I talk while you're doing this, or are you almost there?
Oh, okay, I'm in. What is a design system? Okay. I've asked it what a design system, also known as a design language or style guide, is a set of guidelines, standards, and patterns that define the visual and functional aspects of products or services. It outlines how various components of the product should look and behave, including typography, color, layout, and interaction. The purpose of a design system is to provide consistency across different parts of a product or service, making it easier for designers and developers to create new elements and features while maintaining a consistent visual language. And then there's it goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
That's probably the most accurate thing I've ever heard AI come out with.
It does.
So that describes it pretty well. So, the idea is you're in an organization, you're creating software or apps, and every time you go to design a button or a screen or a table or whatever, do your designers have to design it from scratch, or can they pluck out of a repository, you know, a button, a table, um, and so a menu, and it already has in it. It could have wording, it could have color, it could have shape, it could have animation, and all those things are there. So A, they don't have to invent them every time. B, they don't they as your AI thing said there, it will be consistent across pages, screens, and different products. So that's what a design system is. In the uh, olden days, it was, and the AI even mentioned it was a style guide. It used to be, a document that you would read, but now there are tools that allow you to create uh, components. It's usually called these various components. And the other thing that's interesting these days, Guthrie, is it's not just for prototyping, but it's actually you can set it up so these components have the code behind them. So it becomes not just a tool for designers to prototype with, but actually can be used by developers to program with. So
Yeah.
that's what a design system is.
Yeah.
And it sounds straightforward, but I can tell you what the problems are.
Sure. How about you start and talk about some problems?
Well, I think you have problems. There are 3 areas that you have to pay attention to. So it's not enough. Well, there's more than 3, but it's not enough just for someone to go off and create all of these pieces and components, and then there they are, and they're all available in whatever tool you're using. Because you have to first get everyone together and have agreement on, what should the buttons look like, what should be the standard names of the buttons. And there's a lot of people that want to be involved in that. There's branding people at your company, there's visual designers, there's interaction designers, there's the business, there's just, so you've got to have a group of people that are going to discuss and decide and approve what all the components should be like and how they act. And if you think about all the pieces of, all the components you might have even in a simple app or software, it's a lot. So that takes
So,
time.
in sort of design system software, they sometimes call these tokens.
Yeah.
So a token could include the different values. So, for example, the duration of a animation
Right.
transition,
And
or
you might have.
the color brand of the brand.
That's right. So you might have. So the thing is, you got variables that get complicated. So we have, we have the button when it needs to be this size, and then we have the button when it needs to be that size.
And if you hover over it,
You
then what's
hover
the
over it,
hover
what
and
happens? And you need the animation that runs
what
quickly,
are
and
the
then you need the
breakpoints
animation that's
for
slower.
different responsive designs of different screens?
Right. So
No.
it does get complicated, and somebody has to make all those decisions. Someone has to approve all those decisions. And then, all right, so that's one thing is that,
So let me
yeah,
just take a pause. I think part of the problem is when people say design system, they're actually talking about multiple things that are being lumped into one thing
yes,
that is being called a design system,
yeah,
right? So you have the first thing, which is what you were doing back in the day,
yeah.
which is you want to call it a style guide. You want to, I guess it's just called a style guide in some capacity. Or I mean, I guess they just called
Well,
it a design
I
system. It
would
was more than a style
that's
guide.
one thing. I was going the next step. So I
So
was
okay, so yeah, the first thing is you need the company to come up to agree and have, just on a piece of paper, right? Like what what are the components of our stuff, What are
Yep.
the colors? What are the fonts?
Yep.
And if you're, talking about a website, like I said, right? Like, what are the widths? What are the
Size,
animation
shape.
transitions? All the stuff.
Yep.
So the first thing you need to do is you just need to have all the departments, marketing, engineering, UX, agree
And that
and
in
write it
itself,
down. Okay.
right. So
So okay.
that,
So
yeah,
so part one
that's
is
a
just
lot of work.
part one is just that information.
Yes.
Part two is having a repository of that information that's
Yes.
accessible. Now
And
you
usable.
usable. Yeah, you used to make a manual of some sort that you'd print out, I'm
No,
assuming.
I got so sophisticated. We had a design,
HTML based
an HTML
email
based
based,
design
yeah.
system that we would sell and
Yeah.
that people could then
So
customize.
that's part two, right?
Yeah.
Is the database repository stuff. And then of
Yes.
course there's challenges, right? Who keeps it up to date? You got to make sure that everyone's actually using it and that it's designed in a way that the different
Well,
people
and
want to use it.
okay, all right, and let me interrupt you for a second because it's not just keeping the repository updated, but your decisions you make. First of all, you need versions of everything for, it's a web app. No, it's running on Android. No, it's running on an iPhone, right? You need all of that. And then you change your mind.
All the time.
We're not our
We've
logo now. We're
redesigned.
not using that blue, and so all the buttons have to switch blue.
Yeah. So you have to agree on it. That's part one. Part two
Right.
is the repository feature where it's
Yes.
stored in a central location.
Yes.
And then the third part of what I would call a modern design system is the integration with engineering. And that's really
Yes.
what's pushed it into popularity.
Yes.
Because theoretically, if you can integrate it, so I'm looking at, we'll get to it, but there were two pieces of software, including a Ohio-based startup called Knapsack that I'm going to be using.
Well, there's a lot of different
There's a lot of different ones.
tools. Yeah.
But so, for example, if in Knapsack, you click on the component that you want. So let's just call it like a card, right? They are certain cards which are HTML elements of some sort. And in the card, you can look at it just as it is. You can grab the Figma
Yes.
thing, so you can whip it right into Figma. Or you can grab the React code, which is a form of JavaScript. So if you're coding, you can just grab that. So they also have like an accessibility one. So depending on who's using it, you can see the card. This is our company card, HTML, or our company button. And then it has all the snippets for all the different target audiences, whether it's the code for the programmers or the Figma file for the designers, et cetera, et cetera. So the third part, right? We had part one, which was making the decisions and actually having, what all the components are. Part two was the repository, a place to access it. And then part three is the integration with the workflows so that people can actually very quickly take the component and it's like, I'm working on a new page, slide it right in. And that's where the magic happens, because theoretically, if you can just slide it right in, instead of taking weeks to build the whole page, you just have a basically
when things change.
Yeah, or when things change, just preset and you just throw it in and you're done. So,
but there is one more piece that is kind of related to the third one.
Okay.
But I think is separate. Well, there's two other things I want to talk about. One is like training. Like you got to just training and knowledge. I mean, people have to know it's there. They have to know how to use it, and so on. And then the fifth part of it is, we said you have to keep it updated, right? It's just you have to decide how much you're gonna. There's a whole plan to how much you do. So one of the mistakes I see people make is they're not going to release it and train people and have them use it until everything is in there. Okay. you'll never get there, right? That takes too long. So what you really need to do is figure out how to do versions of it. What's a set of components that would be very useful if we had them right now, and let's go do that. A small set. Let's go do those. Let's get them implemented and get everybody used to it, and then we'll add to that over time. And I think that's a mistake people make, is they want it to be complete before it's released, and that just that could literally take years. So you don't want to do that.
Well, and this is the chicken egg of design systems, right? It's
Why?
really not useful unless you have almost all the components, because
yeah, I understand
right. And so in order for at least the programmers, which is what anyone cares about. But this is true of any repository system, right? Like, it's only useful if people use it, but
they're only going to
can't make it useful unless everyone uses it, but people won't use it unless it's there. And so it's sort of like this,
you go back and forth. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, okay, but it'd be interesting. I don't know the answer to this question. I wonder what percentage of, mid to large size companies have working, successful design systems. I want to know the answer to that, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, we are not experts in design systems, but based on this person who does work in the field, it sounds like there's just a lot of problems. I'll give you a problem. There's a company, and let's say they have a successful design system, but like most companies, there are large parts of their IT infrastructure, portals, logins, parts of code that they subcontract. Right? Hey, we need to build the iOS app.
The contractors have to be able to access.
But that's not, that's usually not how it works. And so then they throw it together based on some sort of something.
No.
Well, because it's hard.
You get part of your plan.
My point is that there's a lot of times where there are, even if you have a successful design system in place, it still doesn't get used all the time. And so there are inconsistencies that happen. And so my understanding was that there were targeted groups of like designers or engineers that use the design system successfully.
Yeah.
But from what my understanding is that it was very rare that an entire organization was all on board one consistent design system, as much as it would help. And so it was my sense that more often than not, some of these problems with design systems were creeping up and were causing
trouble. I have a hypothetical or philosophical question for you. Okay. So if we assume that let's assume two things. The design system might not cover everything. It just, might not be totally complete, right? All right, let's assume that. And let's assume that there are pockets of people in various places that aren't using it for whatever reason in your company. Is it worth doing? Or should you just say, oh, forget the whole darn thing then? If it's not going to be used and it's not going to have everything in it, then let's just forget it.
Well, this is right. This is a problem because there's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of work and a lot of overhead to create it and keep it going.
And maintain it.
So what do you think? What's your answer? Well, this is just your opinion. I have my opinion.
Oh, man.
Okay, wait a minute. I'll make it more complicated. You have three choices. A.
Yeah.
It's still worth it. Go ahead, work on it, do the best you can. B. Forget the whole thing. It's not worth it. Just forget it. C. Go back to having a style guide.
I was going to say, I actually think, you don't have to go back, but I do think that the right answer is to have a universal style guide that
Ooh, this is such an interesting. I like this ABC question. So I don't know if I'd love to hear from people. If you have a vote ABC, let us know. But yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
if you have a universal style guide
Yeah, yeah,
and it's accessible,
yeah,
it's an HTML, whatever, you go
yeah,
to the portal and it has the style guide, and maybe you use some software to, to do it. And then, and you keep the style guide relatively simple.
yeah. It's
Like
simple
maybe
and
you don't
it's
have
updated.
cards, but you would
No,
at least
no,
have
it's
buttons,
buttons.
and you'd
You have
have
examples
examples and
and the
colors
definition
and
and yeah,
fonts, and um, it would be great to have a universal login. There's so many
yeah,
login screens and a lot
yeah,
of stuff, right? So whenever a user needs to log in, whatever the siloed platform that they're doing, this is what the login should look like.
yeah,
And then have someone somewhere in the organization just in charge of consistency.
yeah,
And when the prototypes are like coming out,
yeah.
they can double check the prototype
Right,
against the style guide and be
right.
like, "Hey guys, this is
Yeah,
like
you're
wrong."
missing these things. Yeah.
And then if it becomes really, really successful, then you can transition to tokens and
But
start to
here's the
fill in those
interesting
components.
thing that this is interesting. I haven't thought about it before. I don't know if I agree with you or not.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting wrinkle too, also, because you had said, well, when it got involved in actually, having code snippets, right, not just descriptions and pictures, then everyone got interested in it, right? Reusable code. So if you do a style guide, some people care about it, but a lot of people don't. It's not as big a project, but then again, it's not going to have that reusable code. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'm sure there are companies that have style guides out there, but I think the design system thing right now is a lot more popular. But as you said, it's got a lot of problems. So
Well, I think, I mean, again, design, they're calling it's a little bit like UX, but they actually mean visual design, right? Like
right,
they're calling it a design system, but really they're just using it as a style guide
yeah,
because they don't have enough consistency across their agile development and
yeah,
the subcontractors and stuff. So they're not getting consistency in their development to actually
right,
have people use the design system as the
yeah.
system part. So they functionally just have a style guide because it's not being, the codes are not being used. And I
Well,
will
this
say
would
it is
be a good
easier. Well, because it's easier to keep a style guide
yes,
updated,
absolutely.
right?
So
Once you
this
get into
would
code snippets
Yeah,
and
no,
this
that's a lot
version
more
of
complicated.
PHP, and it
So
gets
this
much
is
harder.
good. You could be the design system contrarian, and you can come out and say, "Forget it.
Contrarian.
Dump your design system and create a style guide." And Guthrie, I still have all that HTML code on my laptop, so we could just revive the style guide that we used to do and
Honestly, it probably still works just fine.
make $1 million, which is always my goal that I never reach.
Yeah, I mean, it's the problem, of course, right? Is there's no money in style guides.
There used to be.
There used to be, but now, well, the only money is can I reduce my dev time? That's like the
Well, no,
only,
I know. That's why I said
right?
I don't know that. But, the place where the money was back then
Yeah.
was, um, in being able to bring together all these very opinionated people at these companies and get them to agree. I used to get paid a lot of money to do that because that was
There
the
is so
amount of
much value in
time.
that, and no one wants to pay for it anymore.
well, they used to. The amount of time people can spend arguing about the name of a button is really fascinating. And high level people in a room.
I think what really hurt was this idea of modular programming, where
Yeah.
instead of designing a big system that all works
Yeah.
together, you work
You
on one
just
little
design
snippet and I'll work
pieces.
on
Yeah.
another little snippet,
Yeah.
and they'll talk to each other, and that's all
Yeah.
that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And there's a magic to that, but what you do lose is you lose the agreeing on direction, and you lose a lot of consistency, because if I log in and it works, it's fine, right? It doesn't matter that there were two different types of code and they didn't mismatch, they were kind of mismatched or whatever. Like, if it works to the end user. But anything that's visual or any flow is just that's different. It's just gonna be weird. And it, we've seen this, right? Where you have 17 different interactions that do the same thing throughout a website.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why isn't this?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Should I ask I'll ask the AI, should we be done?
You're going to ask the AI what?
Should we be done? Yes or no?
With our podcast episode?
I just asked it, should we be done? Yes or no? And it gave me the answer, yes.
Okay.
So I guess we're done.
Is this still a thing? When I was growing up, there was this ball.
Yes, the magic 8-ball is still
and
around.
You shake it and it gives you an answer.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do with AI. It's just an online magic 8-ball.
And a random number generator. Nothing
Very
wrong with
useful.
a good random number generator. Yeah.
Although we had that before we had AI.
In fact, AI it's funny, if you type in, can you like make up a number or whatever, it'll say like, I don't make up numbers, because a language model can't make up a truly random number, right? Because it's looking for the next word in the sentence. So you'd actually have correlation between them.
Yeah.
In just ancient 1980s,
you could do a random number generator.
Programming, right? There's a function that you can run that will just give you a random number.
That's right.
So AI, natural language models cannot give you a random number. You need different
But they can
stuff.
randomly tell you that it's time to end.
They can. Any good one will be able to run that very simple thing and then give you an output. But
Guthrie, thank you for your AI demo.
Keep people updated. It's sort of fun. For people who are curious, I am running on a M2 MacBook Air, and it seems to be running just fine. Not hot, just
except
not great.
Wrong answers.
It's not great, but it is running, and I think it's running
That's what
locally.
We care about.
That's so cool.
We don't need it correct.
It's running locally on my Mac.
To run cool without blowing up his laptop.
Yeah, I should maybe try the bigger parameter model. I am waiting. Hold on. One last thing and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
I have 32 gigabytes of RAM on my desktop.
Yeah.
And a graphics card with neural network, because I have an NVIDIA RTX card.
Yeah.
So I am waiting for it to be available on Windows, because if it's available on Windows, I might be able to kick up a little dust here and get some stuff that would be.
I don't think it'll
a little fun.
Give you any more accurate answer. So that's my take on it.
I don't know. I don't know.
ChatGPT gives me wrong answers all the time.
Does it still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the time. All right. Thank you, Guthrie. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.